Hello. I know that this video is a week later than it should have been. That was because I was dealing with a few things. I had some external personal issues, so it took me a little bit to actually sit down and record this. So it's going to go out on a week past when it was intended, which should not at all stop the flow of the videos that are going to come after this with, introducing all of Sky Colony and going over their, members and all of that. That should still be the week following this. So, without any further ado, let's start talking about Doc. Now, Doc was the last character I actually intended to be a protagonist, because if you watched my video about Wavetail, or just Wave, I was really certain that it was going to be Ember, that I was fully prepared for it to be Ember, and then I was just going to flounder to find what plot I wanted him to have. And then when I fleshed out the characters more and I got to certain points that I felt more comfortable with, I really, really liked Doc as the protagonist instead. So, hold on, I have to pause this real quick. Alright, resuming. Sorry, my cat. As I was saying, I really felt that Doc was a stronger protagonist, and that when I came up with the stories and the drama that I wanted to kind of deal with in Sky Colony, which was going to be this whole, sorry, she's right next to me. It was gonna be this whole, whodunit, attempted murder mystery, and there was going to be a whole trying to figure out who had poisoned or attempted to poison certain characters, and that whole plot was going to be easier from Doc's perspective, and I'll explain that part in a minute, but let's get into her history. So Doc was born alongside Ember, her brother, and their parents are Tawny Spark, their father, and the deceased Beach Ear, I believe. Yes, Beach Ear. Now, she was very sick when giving birth to them, and she later passed away afterwards due to that sickness, and the kits were raised by their grandparents, who are, we have their grandmother, Maple Tuft, and their grandfather, Bramblepelt, who you'll see Bramblepelt also in this speed paint. They are the parents of Tawny Spark. So, while Beach Ear's family kind of just wasn't around anymore, the kids were still taken care of, and they didn't necessarily know any other difference. They don't necessarily miss their mom because they never knew her, per se, and they instead are perfectly okay with having their grandparents. Now, because their father, Tawny Spark, is a hunter, he doesn't spend all of his time around camp, especially when they were young. He wasn't necessarily around, so where Bramblepelt stepped in as the guardian, which is until they earn their name, he kind of takes care of them and teaches them. Like, that was the most optimal uh, response to this situation. It just meant instead of maybe starting to take care of them when they're 2 or 3 months old, he gets to start taking care of them when they're not even a month old, and that's perfectly fine. Um, no parties involved really complained, and the kids got to learn all sorts of fun things from their grandpa. And this is a bit of background that I wholly intended to make Bramblepelt a bad guy for Sky Colony. Like, it was my wholehearted intention that he was going to be negative in some regard. And then when I was putting together the pieces of Snowfoot, just her entire existence, I felt that it would be more interesting if he had kind of gotten caught in the crossfire. Because there's this whole... He's not, like, fully a good person. He's definitely had his mistakes in the past, and he's a bit more gruff. He's very what I would call traditional masculine, so he's not, like, super showy with his emotions, or he's not gonna have, like, a heart-to-heart with you, but his grandchildren have just opened the floodgates. And in his older life, he's started to work through some of the issues that he's had, and that gets partly spoiled by the fact that someone attempts to kill him, which I'll also get to in a minute. So when Doc and Ember earn their names, Ember starts training under his grandmother, Mapletuff, and that's like a really good pair because he loves his grandmother. They had honestly a better relationship than he did with his grandfather, which is not by much because those three were completely inseparable. They were like the best of friends. And Doc ended up going to work with Sorrelcreek, who was the doctor of the colony. She was very, very interested in working with him. Now, during that time, when they were also promoted, the old matriarch stepped down, and Bramblepelt was basically elected to go up in rank, and he ended up they all earned new positions together, so they had the last possible chance they could have with him being their guardian and caretaker. So during that time of basically like training and being novices and menders, there was a lot of Ember absolutely falling in love with Wave, and so we see part of that where the early interactions he has are kind of this like childish romance, head over heels, love at first sight kind of thing. And then Doc is very level-headed, and she loves and encourages her brother to do what he will, and that is kind of their relationship. Because in the colonies, and I want to explain this further in a video where I can talk about all of the culture and stuff, but it's not like illegal to switch colonies, but there is a huge learning curve. So most couples that are cross colony don't necessarily live together just because the learning curve. So usually kits will just grow up in one colony and never know their parent from another, because it's extremely difficult to mix and match like that. And those who do switch over are sometimes they're like looked down upon from not truly being in the culture of that colony, but it's fine. So everyone, it's not like a forbidden relationship. So everyone's cool about his crush. It's sort of like a, hey, don't get your hopes up, because you're either going to have to learn how to swim, or she's going to have to get out of the water and come to the forest. So there's that whole part of it that Doc's working with. But on the other side of that is that she kind of becomes a doctor a little too soon, because Sorrelcreek, who is the current, at the very beginning of Sky Colony's appearance, we get to see the new patriarch, Coyote Fang, and his father is Sorrelcreek, and Sorrelcreek passes away during river chasing, which is kind of a minor spoiler. And it's sad because he is the oldest cat, and he is honestly one of my favorite stock personalities for like warriors or like fantasy animal-esque things, where it's just, I'm gonna keep working until the day that I die. And he basically does that. He gets to work until the very end, and he had a really good relationship with Doc, which is unfortunate because she was not prepared in the slightest to take over. And I'm missing someone on the chart. That's Briarstripe, I think. Yeah, Briarstripe. Didn't mention her at all. The litter of cats that came just after Doc and Ember, which was Money Mask and Thundercry's kits, which I referenced them in the previous video and the last map part, is these are their kittens, and one of the two daughters of them is Briarstripe, or Briar, and she and Doc end up becoming a couple together, and it's just this, like, it's not super important to the plot, because I feel like it's not super plot relevant, but it is sweet, it is cute, and it is some representation. That's about it. Next week, we should be introducing all of the lovely 19 cats of Sky Colony, and I might tack on a quick 20th if I can think of a character who has passed away that might be important. And yeah, I think that's about it. I'll see you next week then. Bye.